Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show. Coming at you as I love to do every weekday. 250 plus markets across the United States of America. Check your AM, FM dial near you. Plus ESPN Radio, Sirius XM Channel 80. Plus ESPN Radio simulcast over the live national television airways of ESPN News. I am not in the mood, John, to read these damn reads. But they pay the bills, so I'm going to do it, ladies and gentlemen. But I'm not in the mood for this. So let me just get it out of the way. Disrupting my flow right now, because I'm pretty pissed off. The Stephen A. Smith Show is being brought to you by Credit Karma. Get your truly free credit scores and free credit monitoring from Credit Karma today. That's Credit Karma, K-A-R-M-A. Get knowing. Time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks. No contracts. I'm pretty ticked off. I'm just going to say it. I can't hold it anymore. I understand that it's real easy for folks to sit up there and look at the New York Knicks and the pathetic, moribund state of affairs that have been existing with them. But they traded Porzingis. They've got enough money for 2 max contracts. I've seen Michael Robinson play. I like him. I see Trier play. I like him. Dennis Smith Jr. is in the house. You know I like him. And all we could do is sit back despite the presence of James Dolan. All we could do is sit back and hope. But damn it, at least there is hope. 3,000 miles away in the city of angels. The town that now belongs to King James. The Lakers stink. Somebody has to say it. And I'm not talking about a record. I'm not acting like they're the worst team in the league. I'm not telling you they stink because they're bereft of talent. I'm saying they stink right now because guess what? The Lakers find a way to get your hopes up, and when you believe in them, it comes crashing down. They're the Grinches who stole Christmas. They're contaminating Hollywood. It got to a point when Jim Buss was there, at least just sat back and said, okay, he's there. They're really going to stink. No need to hope and get your hopes up and have your heart broke. I can modify my expectations and I'll be all right. That's not the case with what's going on. Look at the LA Times today. You want to headline LeBron James and his 79th triple-double isn't enough for the Lakers in a loss to Memphis. But somehow, some way, we still mention the 79th triple-double of LeBron James' career. Well, here's a note, LeBron James. I don't give a damn about your 79th triple-double. I care about that 2-8 record in the last 10 road games. I care about the fact that you're under 500. I care about the fact that on a night when the San Antonio Spurs have lost again, and Sacramento Kings have lost, you haven't gained any ground. I care about the fact that the Lakers can't seem to know they're behind from their feet. I care about the fact that this team somehow, some way, cannot get their act together. And this is with the best player in the world. It ain't nothing happening. Now the time has arrived for us to say what needs to be said. I know it's due to injury. I know LeBron James hasn't looked but so great, even though he's putting up triple doubles, which speaks to his greatness, because even though he's not 100% healthy, he's still doing what he's done. But ladies and gentlemen, I think the time has come to stop talking about LeBron James as the best player in the world. I think the time has come to an end. We need to stop. Because guess what? You got to be able to do it on both ends of the court. Do you see people salivating at the mouth every time LeBron James is guarding them now? They ain't even worried about him defending them. They ain't worried about him. When are we going to pay attention to that? We're watching highlights of Trae Young blowing by LeBron James and Mike Conley doing what he's doing and others. Last night they showed highlights of the Memphis Grizzlies getting about 3 or 4 offensive rebounds, and LeBron was standing around sightseeing. You'd have thought he was on vacation. I understand the load that he has to carry. I understand there's a lot on his broad shoulders. I understand that Father Time is undefeated. He ain't getting any younger. He's got to conserve his energy, etc., etc. But damn. How do you get to do all of that and still be recognized as the best player in the world? Particularly with the way Greek Freak is playing, with the way Paul George is playing, with the way James Harden is playing, with the way Kevin Durant is playing, who, by the way, quietly is just averaging 27 again, like he always has throughout his career. I'm talking about Kevin Durant there. I mean, I'm starting to get to the point right now where I'm wondering, even if the Lakers had Anthony Davis, would they have a chance to win the championship? I'm starting to have those kind of questions. I mean, this is getting ridiculous. Are the Lakers better than this? Yes. Is LeBron James to blame to some degree for the doldrums that they experience? You're damn right he is. Somebody's got to say it. Somebody's got to say it. I know this is a guy that belongs in the Mount Rushmore of basketball. I know that this is one of the greatest players we've ever seen. When he is gone, my God, are we going to miss him? We're going to miss him when he's gone. I always loved that line that Papa Pope threw at Olivia on the show Scandal when she pulled the trigger thinking that there was bullets in it. And there were no bullets in it. And he screamed at her. And almost cried because his heart was broken. I forgot his real name in real life, but my God, Papa Pope is one hell of an actor. He's on that show now, God Befriended Me. Or God Friended Me. Phenomenal actor. But he looked at her and he said, "You will miss me when I'm gone." And that's how we're going to feel about LeBron James when he's gone. We're going to miss him. We're going to miss him. But that doesn't negate the obligation to talk about what we're seeing right now. Primarily due to injury, no doubt, he's a shell of himself compared to what we know he can be, but especially defensively. And so when you know this about yourself, but you're talking about the young players, they ain't never been here before, they don't know what it takes, they don't know what was required. Look, you know what? I don't want to hear that excuse. I don't want to hear that. Let me tell you what they do understand. They understand what life is like in Southern California. Those palm trees, that sunshine. Melrose, Rodeo, Venice Beach, Palisades Parkway, LA Live downtown. The list goes on and on. There's a lot to be said about LA. You don't have to have competed for championships to know what the hell you have. You want to move to Detroit? Want to move to Utah? Where you want to go? You want to be in Toronto? Where you want to go? There's a lot of places that are a hell of a lot worse than Southern California. Do you want to be here or not? Then bring your A game. Not A game, but whatever A game you've got inside of you. Where the hell has the Lakers been with that? Inquiring minds would like to know. I mean, this is getting ridiculous. You losing to Memphis and New Orleans. You trailing Sacramento by a game. You're trailing the Clippers by 3 games for the 8th and final playoff spot. Now San Antonio's falling behind them. You losing to the Pelicans and the Memphis Grizzlies? Really? Meanwhile, Brandon Ingram dropping 30. Kyle Kuzma ain't doing great, but he ain't shooting awful. Where the hell is everybody else at? Luke Walton's got some explaining to do. How the hell does Lance Stevenson look formidable in the first half and sees about a second of playing time in the second half? How does Mike Muscala get traded to the Lakers, plays initially, and then can't buy minutes until last night? How'd that happen? Rondo, where you at? Tyson Chandler, where you at? These veterans, championship pedigree. What the hell is going on? Magic Johnson, Irvin Magic Johnson, where the hell are you at? How come there are no shooters on this team? We lamented this when he assembled the roster. I was like, where the hell's the shooter? That's why I loved Kuzma and Hart so much, because they were the only people that had reliable perimeter shots. And now Josh Hart's minutes have dwindled. What kind of plays are you calling out of timeouts, Luke Walton? Where's the rotation? Where's the identity? Where's the defense? LeBron? Now he's got 16 years in the league, and I understand that. And I understand he can't be no Kawhi Leonard or even Kevin Durant. But damn it, you don't have to stand around like I could. I mean, the kind of defense that LeBron was playing, if that's the standard, hell, I could throw on some shorts. And I ain't played no damn basketball in years. Primarily due to schedule and my questionable knee with the tendonitis and the screw on my knee. But that's beside the point. I digress. My point is, what are you doing? What the hell is going on? I mean, this is some absolutely ridiculous and embarrassing stuff that's taking place. Now, in fairness to LeBron and in fairness to the Lakers, I had the Lakers going to the conference finals. And the way LeBron was playing prior to his injury, I was confident that I was looking pretty damn good with that prediction. They were a 4th or 5th seed in the Western Conference. They were a few games above 500. I mean, I'm just looking at it from that perspective, and I'm saying to myself, you know something? Lakers looking pretty damn good. That's how I was looking at it. By the way, that actor from Scandal, Joe Morton is his name. That's my brother, my Q Dog. Keith Whitney sent me that information. Joe Morton. That's his name. Phenomenal actor. Phenomenal. He was in Terminator 2, I believe, years ago. Terminator 2 or 3, something like that. But just a phenomenal, phenomenal actor. One of the greatest. He's special. Papa Pope is what I call it forever, though. I love it. But I'm here to tell y'all something right now. Back to LeBron. What the hell is going on? They were looking at good. They were on course. And then some people, and you know what people are doing right now, right? You know what people are talking about, right? Right now, what people are talking about is this. Things changed, came All-Star break. You know, when you were trying to trade the whole team for Anthony Davis, everybody know LeBron James has something to do with that. No, Magic Johnson's going to make that call. But it's not like he didn't consult with LeBron James. It's not like LeBron James tried to hide it or was unapologetic about it when he was picking his all-star roster and admitted to Ernie Johnson right there on TNT, I would love to be to have Anthony Davis playing with me. And there's nothing wrong with that. No crime there. And these Lakers evidently needing diapers instead of putting their big pants on and understanding this is a part of the business, clearly they've been affected. Now, I agree with LeBron and Magic and everybody else. Get the hell over it. I understand that. And if that ain't enough incentive for you, how about the specter of going to a cold city instead of L.A., Tinseltown? How about that? But still in all, with LeBron James, I understand that you're not better than Golden State. I understand that you're not better than Oklahoma City. I understand if you're not better than Houston. Utah, the Clippers. I mean, you got to be kidding me. You really, really do. I'm tired. I'm not playing no games no more. I'm getting into that mode. Playoffs are almost here. I ain't going to hold this stuff back. Enough's enough. I mean, Lakers got to get their act together. If ever there was a place to call it a privilege to play basketball, it is the L.A. Lakers. Their tradition, their championship pedigree, where their locale is. You got to be kidding me. And if you LeBron James, you know what? You said that you was going to turn it up another gear. Well, damn it, do it. We brag about you going to back-to-back playoff NBA Finals appearances, 8 straight in the Eastern Conference. That damn cakewalk that you had available to you over the last 8 years. And the second you get in a competitive conference, you ain't going to even make the playoffs? Hell no. I'm not letting that slide. I'm not letting it slide. In the sport of basketball, if you are that great as an individual player, you got to do better than that. I don't blame LeBron for calling cats out. I don't blame him for holding people accountable. But at some point in time, it ain't about you exhaling as if you Whitney Houston and Angela Bassett and everybody else and Loretta Devine. Let me not forget that marvelous, wonderful woman. This ain't waiting to exhale. This is the Lakers. You want to bloviate and talk? Fine. But then you got to go out there and get it done, just like you did against Houston last Thursday night when you came back from a 19-point deficit at the Staples Center. How you going to turn around and lose to the Pelicans without Anthony Davis? Or to the Grizzlies without Marc Gasol any longer? How'd that happen? And Magic Johnson, where are you? Rob Pelinka, you too. Everybody know I'm rooting for the Lakers. I ain't apologizing for it. If I'm a bit emotional, damn it, it's because I'm rooting for them. That's why. I know where I want to be come playoff time. But I certainly didn't expect this garbage that I'm witnessing. Straight garbage. 1 minute they don't know how to play defense. Another minute they don't know how to run plays. Another minute they don't know their spots on the floor. Another minute they missing defensive assignments. Another minute it's a bad rotation. Another minute it's bad play calling. I mean, what the hell is going on? Luke Walton. I'm going to miss you, buddy. I'll tell you right now, the way things are going with these Los Angeles Lakers, if it don't change course, I want to be the first to say, Luke Walton, I'm going to miss you. I like Luke Walton. I want him to stay on as coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. I want him to get an opportunity because guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Luke Walton is not perfect. There are mistakes that he has made that has been a bit flagrant at times, particularly on the defensive side of the ball as it pertains to his coaching. I'm willing to concede all of that. But I got to say this, y'all. Luke Walton's getting a bad rap. Because this roster that exists here ain't getting it done. When you're a champion that's been in a league for as long as Rajon Rondo has the other night, and LeBron James gives you a pass in the right corner for a wide open three-pointer, and you turn over the basketball because you're trying to throw it into the post. I think it was to Tyson Chandler, if I remember correctly. Please tell me what kind of damn sense that makes. That don't make no sense. What y'all gonna tell me next? Lonzo's out? Lonzo Ball. That's what y'all gonna tell me? Lonzo Ball? Lonzo Ball being absent. That's the reason they're struggling. That's what you're gonna tell me? You mean Mr. Lonzo Ball, number 2 overall pick, that's perfectly content, dribbling the ball past half court, giving it to somebody else and going to stand in the corner? You mean that Lonzo Ball? Athletic, no doubt. Plays defense, no doubt. Let me take a moment to give credit where credit is due to Brandon Ingram. He's been aggressive as of late. He's been doing his part. Kuzma need to be a little bit more aggressive. Or a bit more efficient. LeBron James, play some defense, bro. I know you're the best in the world. Not right now, though. You ain't getting that. And listen, I'm sick and tired. Everybody talk about the Greek freak. There is a difference between being the most dominant and being the best. And I'm not going to listen to people anymore just disrespect Kevin Durant. I'm just not going to do it. Nobody was harder on Kevin Durant leaving for Golden State than me. But I didn't go blind. The brother averages 27 for his career. He's averaging 27 now. He shoots better than 50% from the field, better than 35% from three-point range, nearly 90% from the free throw line. Plus, he plays defense. He's arguably the most efficient superstar we have. Greek Freak can't shoot from the perimeter like him. Enough's enough. There's a reason the Golden State Warriors are favored to win the chip again. And it ain't because of just Steph Curry. If Steph Curry didn't have Kevin Durant, we wouldn't be saying that. The disrespect accorded to this man has become tragic. Kevin Durant's problem is he needs to be more aggressive his damn self. But it is clear he can do whatever he wants with that basketball when it's in his hands. He is something special. And to talk about him in passe fashion, he's not Anthony Davis, he's not Greek Freak, he's not LeBron James, he's not Kawhi Leonard. Well, damn it, they ain't him either. They're not Kevin Durant. And for people to act like that, it's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. Either way you slice it, things are looking so questionable. Things are looking so questionable in L.A. You know what I'm starting to wonder about? You think it's whether or not the Lakers are going to make the playoffs, don't you? Nope, you're wrong. You know what I'm starting to think about? I'm starting to think about whether or not LeBron will ever win a championship again. When I see Milwaukee and I see Toronto if Kawhi Leonard stays, and I see Boston if Kyrie stays, and Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and them stay intact, when I see the Clippers, if they get a couple of marquee players, if I see Golden State and Kevin Durant elects not to leave, if I see Oklahoma City, because I got news for you, with Paul George playing the way that he plays and with the camaraderie that they have, him and Russell Westbrook have with each other, and the way Billy Donovan and Mo Cheeks and that coaching staff have these boys playing, I got news for you. The Oklahoma City Thunder are coming. They're coming. I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to wonder whether or not LeBron James is ever going to win a championship again, and whether or not the king will ever be crowned again for his career. Was his swan song as a champion a couple of years ago in Cleveland. That's the point I'm getting to. It really, really is. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. That was Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage of America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. If it is, ladies and gentlemen, if it is, how bad is it that Magic and Pelinka didn't make sure they got a Paul George or somebody to help them? And oh, by the way, how important will this summer be for LeBron James, the recruiter? These are legitimate questions. They really, really are. Do you have frequent heartburn? Like the kind where you have an acid stashed every week?
The Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN.
Certainly hasn't been the case since he's been back. And when you consider the greatness that's being put on display by some of the other players around the league, James Harden, Greek Freak, Paul George, Kevin Durant, of course. I mean, it's disrespectful to those guys. It's just act like LeBron James could do whatever he wants, when he wants, how he wants, and he'll still look better than them. He does not always look better than them. And so if he's not always looking better than them, And there's a question as to whether or not he's the best in the world. And he clearly isn't a champion anymore because that would belong to the Golden State Warriors. How is he the king? How? I'm not trying to sound like my man Shiggy on Instagram. But I mean, it's a legitimate question. Yo, king. LeBron James is an LA Laker. Yo, king. Really? The greatest player in the world has signed with the LA Lakers. They don't look like the Lakers. Do y'all understand the magnitude of what I'm trying to break down to y'all? Now, we know basketball wasn't the only reason he arrived in LA. He's got off-the-court aspirations that are incredibly valid. And we need to show LeBron in that regard the respect that he has earned and deserves. He's probably a billionaire. He's got money out the wazoo. He's a 3-time champion, a 4-time league MVP. We recognize the fact that he's been to 9 NBA finals and he's went to 8 straight. But it was in the East. And oh, by the way, he still has 6 finals losses on his resume. That's why the Eastern Conference matters. Because religiously, it's been the weaker conference than the West. And then you transition to the West. And you're talking to me about going from Cleveland to L.A. and you go from being in the finals to not making the playoffs with a better roster than you had in Cleveland? Something's wrong with this picture. Something's wrong. And when you're the leader and you're calling out guys, I'm not saying he's wrong because I don't think he's wrong. But something's got to work. You can't call them out and they look progressively worse. That's not going to help anybody. And if LeBron James doesn't get anybody to come with him this summer and the Pelicans trade Anthony Davis to somebody other than him, then we're talking about LeBron James not having any help until 2 years from now. How's he going to look then? How's he going to look then? I never thought in my wildest dreams I'd see LeBron James go down and miss 18 games. But it happened. I mean, we're not paying attention to this to the level that it requires. It is entirely possible that LeBron James will be the first megastar in the history of the Lakers franchise to not have delivered an NBA championship. The only other person who compared was Elgin Baylor, who retired at age 37 midway through the 1971-72 season. That's what we have to remember here. Elgin Baylor, 1971-72. That was the year that the Lakers won the NBA Finals. When they went 69-13, that particular year, the great Elgin Baylor played in 9 games and retired midway through the season. Other than him, no major star in the history of the Lakers organization, from George Mikan to Wilt Chamberlain to Jerry West to Magic Johnson to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, James Worthy to Shaq and Kobe, no major star in the history of the Lakers franchise failed to deliver a chip to the franchise. We going to ignore that? I'm not. My man Champ, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, bro.
How you doing, bro?
I'm good. Talk to me.
Just the Lakers, I think we in panic mode a little bit too early. They're 3 games back, and I still believe they will make the playoffs. And I've been on record several times and saying I don't believe LeBron is the best player, but he's talented enough to get this team to the playoffs. I think will be a failure to the Lakers when they do get in the playoffs. They should make the Western Conference Finals. I think they're the second best, most talented team in the Western Conference behind Golden State. And I think everybody's on the panic button as of right now today.
Well, let me ask you a question. Why aren't you, considering what you're seeing from everybody else around him, and the coaching of Luke Walton, which has been suspect over recent weeks, why aren't you? Hello?
I'm listening. I'm not. I thought you finished. I'm sorry.
No. I'm saying I'm asking you a question. Why aren't you in panic mode?
Well, because this is LeBron. It's a toxic environment. I knew this was going to happen. I went off the record with you, and I told you I expected an injury sometime midway through the season.
You know what you did say. You know what you did say that. You did say that. Yeah. You told me that this summer. I got to give you credit for that. You absolutely did, champ. Go ahead.
So for me personally, the biggest story to me should be, will LeBron get traded from the Los Angeles Lakers before they win another NBA championship?
You can't trade LeBron James.
It's going to happen.
I don't think it's going to happen. Go ahead.
I believe they will not get anyone this season. I think they're going to obviously lose in the playoffs.
Okay.
No one's going to come. Kawhi Leonard is going to go somewhere else. I think Kevin Durant, if he leaves Golden State, I've been on record as of last year that he will go to the New York Knicks, him with Kyrie Irving and maybe Jimmy Butler. And I think what's going to end up happening in the Lakers front office and brass, they're going to quietly look at some teams after the end of next season, and they're going to trade LeBron James.
Well, let me say this to you. I don't believe LeBron James will ever be traded without his permission. I don't think he will ever be traded by Magic Johnson without his permission. That's A. B, I will also say this. Why are you convinced that Kevin Durant, and don't get me wrong, I don't disagree with you, but why are you convinced that Kevin Durant will choose New York, particularly when you just heard his tirade a few weeks ago about the media not letting him just play basketball, et cetera, et cetera? Why are you so convinced that he'll want to go into that bubble that is the New York market?
Well, the stars could align with Jay-Z and all those guys, but you remember I had an anonymous source tell me that he was going to Golden State, and everybody laughed. I thought this source was real valid. New York brings back everything, what I always stated what Kevin Durant was doing. He hijacked LeBron's fake run, as I called it. You win 3 championships in Golden State, you get the 3 finals MVPs. What better the tip of the iceberg is this? Go to New York. Michael Jordan didn't go to New York. Kobe didn't go to New York. LeBron was scared to go to New York. Kevin Durant wins an NBA championship next year in New York City. We can start having an argument. 4 straight MVPs in the finals, 4 straight championships, win a championship in New York. The argument then going to be, is Kevin Durant resume better than Michael Jeffrey Jordan?
Well, let me ask you this question. Why you keep mentioning New York like it's the Knicks? How come it ain't Brooklyn?
I never said the Knicks.
Okay.
Just the Knicks only.
Okay. I just want to make sure. Go ahead. Finish your point.
And the last one is with this whole Greek freak thing. He's doing the LeBron all over again. He's dominating the Eastern Conference regular season, putting up the gaudy numbers inside the rim. But when the game matters the most, you won't be able to find him. And he's going to they're going to try to give him the MVP this year because he's putting up gaudy numbers. And B, putting up gaudy numbers. He's not even the best player in the East.
I think the Greek freak will definitely get his numbers. But I'm talking about as the game wanes in clutch moments, that absence of a perimeter shot will foil him. That is my prediction against the Boston Celtics and to a lesser degree Toronto. I think he's going to have trouble come postseason time when it really, really counts because he doesn't have that perimeter shot. Champ, I got to bounce, man. I appreciate the call. Thank you so much. The one and only Champ, my brother Champ, right here with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. By the way, if you missed my opening segment, go check it out on demand in the Stephen A. Smith podcast, brought to you by Capital One. Capital One is reimagining banking, offering accounts with no fees or minimums that can be opened in 5 minutes. Capital One, hey, what's in your wallet? Back with your calls in a minute before my man Ryan Clark comes on to start off hour number 2. You're listening live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News.
Learn what affects your credit scores and what
Ryan Clark is on the line with yours truly as we speak. What's going on, man? How are you?
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Before I even get into any football conversation, you and I need to have a basketball talk because obviously, you've listened to me. You've listened to my words of wisdom that I have espoused upon you throughout the years. And you have been definitely outspoken because you watch your basketball and you know your basketball. I went on the air and had the temerity, the unmitigated goal to say that LeBron James right now does not look like the best player in the world, and he doesn't need to be talked about as if he's the best player in the world at this particular juncture. To that you say what, Ryan Clark?
I say you're right. But I also say there's no way at the beginning of the season that I believe we would be having this conversation. When you look at the way he was playing before the groin injury, he had this team in the top 5 in the West. He was playing ball that had him in the MVP conversation, and this team looked like it could possibly make the run to the Western Conference Finals that you were saying they could. But since coming back, he isn't playing with energy. It still seems to me like he's not 100% healthy. And also, too, though, we're seeing some things from a leadership standpoint that I don't like to see in LeBron.
I was getting ready to go there with you about that because to me, the kind of things that we're seeing about from LeBron James at this particular juncture in terms of really, really lamenting the state of affairs with the Lakers, talking about the younger players on the squad, et cetera, it's almost tantamount to what we've been saying about Big Ben Roethlisberger.
You just took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say, we have been down on Ben Roethlisberger's forms of leadership, ever since Antonio Brown came out and spoke up about him. But I believe LeBron has been the same way. And also another part of LeBron's leadership is his mannerisms on the court, right? Some of the pouting, the outwardly showing his displeasure with the things that his teammates are doing. And then after the game, in his post-game comments or anytime he speaks to the media, pointing out what the other people on the team are not doing, basically saying, you know what, it's not me. I've been there before. You know who I am. You know that I'm one of the greatest basketball players of all time. So clearly if we aren't winning, it's nothing I'm doing. They just don't understand the moment. And if I'm one of those young guys on the team, one, you tried to trade us all for one player. And now, number two, the best basketball player in the world, or the guy who we see as that or who came into the season as that, is now pointing out what we can't do. That's a tough environment for a young player to succeed.
I know football is your background. We're talking to Ryan Clark, NFL analyst extraordinaire, Super Bowl champion with the Pittsburgh Steelers, right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. I know that as a professional athlete and as a professional football player, your expertise is football, but I'm still going to stick with this basketball issue for one reason and one reason only. When we talk about LeBron James and we talk about the way he's elected to communicate, when we talk about Magic Johnson as president of basketball operations, a 5-time champion, a Hall of Famer, renowned for being a basketball savant, talk to me about what you alluded to the young players and you said, well, he tried to trade us all. Do you really feel as a young player LeBron tried to trade us all, or do you feel like Magic Johnson tried to trade us all? Which one are you thinking about?
I think you believe it's both. Right, you definitely believe that Magic Johnson was the orchestrator of who was up on the trade block or who they were willing to offer. But this was at the behest of LeBron James, Anthony Davis. Those two guys want to link up, and LeBron was speaking about wanting to play with Anthony Davis before any of this news even broke, before Anthony Davis made it public to us that he wanted to be traded, and before they went to the Pelicans and said they weren't going to re-sign there. And so if you're a part of that team, and you know how basketball works, Stephen A., you've covered it for so long, it's not like football. One player can control what organizations do. And when that one player is LeBron James, when you bring LeBron James there to win a championship and nothing else, if he wants a player, you do whatever it takes to get him. And so when you're a young player, you feel like LeBron was part of that, but you also feel Magic Johnson. The thing for me that would resonate with me as a young player is, though, I expect that from Magic Johnson, right? That's Magic Johnson's job. His job is to try to get the best player that he can possibly get on this team in order for this team to win. But when you feel like your leader, your teammate, supposed to be your brother, is a huge part of that, that's something that takes a little bit longer to get over.
Yeah, but they are in L.A. We're talking about Tinseltown. We're talking about Hollywood. You're talking about trying to make the playoffs for the first time in 6 years. To me, he shouldn't have to babysit them. They should be ready to roll because what do you want to do? Get traded to Detroit? Or Utah someplace rather than Lala? I would imagine that you're incentivized enough where you should be bringing forth whatever A game you've got inside of you, one would imagine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 100%. I mean, they have to understand that they're independent contractors as well. As much as you want the Lakers to win and you want to do well, with the way the NBA works and the trade deadline and trade deadline and the way that people move around, you can be on a different team whenever. Right? Like one day you could be playing in Los Angeles and the next day you could be playing in Portland. That's just the way this game works. So you need to go out every day and make things happen. You need to go out every day and prove your worth. And this team, these young players aren't doing that right now, which is probably another huge reason the Pelicans weren't willing to have the New Orleans Lakers built with those same type of people because they didn't believe that they had what it takes to win games.
Ryan Clark right here with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Let's get back to some news items in the world of football. By the way, the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Pick from a range of coverage options with the Name Your Price tool to find a price that works for you. Plus, get triple action protection for optimal engine performance with Shell V-Power Nitro, plus premium gasoline. Ryan Clark, let's transition to your world, your level of expertise. That is the sport of football, but for obviously different reasons than we would like to be discussing. Robert Kraft, the owner for the New England Patriots, in the news for all the wrong reasons, soliciting prostitution, and that was associated with a sex trafficking ring, although he has not been accused of such a thing, just a misdemeanor charge of soliciting prostitution. Clearly a big embarrassment to him, but in light of Roger Goodell in the league, basically, putting forth a $500,000 fine to Jim Irsay, along with a suspension of 6 games because he pled guilty to a DWI charge back in 2014. What do you anticipate may happen to Robert Kraft after all the dust settles?
I definitely feel like at least that, right? When you look at what Jim Irsay did and now you look at Robert Kraft and the black eye this has caused the Kraft family, the Patriots, and also the NFL, you know that something is going to be done. Roger Goodell has said that in many cases he holds owners to a higher standard than he would the actual player. So once this all plays out, I'm pretty sure that we'll see a heavy fine. There may be draft picks involved, and I believe that there will also be a suspension of some sort for Robert Kraft. I think the biggest thing is just the embarrassment that all this causes, right? To continuously be brought up in the manner that Robert Kraft has to be as we cover this, as we give our opinions on it. I think, to me, that's larger than anything or any fine, any suspension that the NFL and Roger Goodell could lay down. This is a man who is respected by me.
Yeah, me too.
CBA, in CBA negotiations, he was one of the owners that we felt like we could speak with, we could talk to, was level-headed, didn't necessarily treat the players like just the labor. And so to have this happen is definitely just for his legacy, for who we know Robert Kraft to be. I believe to be associated with this is punishment within itself.
I agree with you, but if you're Roger Goodell, I mean, what else do you do? Do you pull him from committees? Because he's obviously been a very, very strong voice on behalf of the National Football League, but also serving as somewhat of a liaison to the players because the players trust him and obviously respect him a great deal and are willing to listen to him more so than they're willing to listen to other owners. Do you remove somebody like that from the committee? Do you make that decision yourself if you're Roger Goodell? Do you consult with other owners before making that decision? How does this get handled?
Yeah, I think you definitely have to consult with the other owners. Obviously, those are the people that Roger Goodell works for, and you speak to them about what they feel the perception of continuing to keep Robert Kraft on these committees or having Robert Kraft speak for the owners as a whole. How do they feel about a man who has now been accused of allegedly soliciting prostitution? How do you feel about that guy being the face of something that you do? And I think that what the owners say will go a long way into that. But Roger Goodell is going to have to think in protecting the shield, right? We hear that so many times when it comes to players, just about protecting the shield. So Robert Kraft will have to be treated in the same way.
Ron Clark right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Let's transition to a different subject. That would be Antonio Brown on the football field. Speculation as to where he may end up, where he should end up, now that he's made it clear to the Pittsburgh Steelers he doesn't want to be there any longer, and the Pittsburgh Steelers have declared a willingness to abide by his wishes. What do you anticipate happening with Antonio Brown?
I think a lot of those talks will go on this week at the Combine. Kevin Colbert has already said 3 teams have reached out to him about Antonio Brown. I expect there to be more. It's going to be about what he's asking to get in return for Antonio Brown, because you have to buy the whole Antonio Brown experience. It's not just this player that we watch on the field that we think is one of the all-time greats, one of the top 3 wide receivers in the league today. It's going to be the off-the-field stuff. It's going to be the locker room stuff. It's going to be the personality that you have to deal with and make sure you keep happy. And so for me, it's going to be an NFC team. The San Francisco 49ers have been mentioned. I would love to see him in Green Bay and be a part of that. But, you know, what he has to try to avoid is going somewhere like the Redskins, who need a wide receiver, who don't necessarily even know who their quarterback will be next year. So this could end up not being the great thing that Antonio Brown wanted.
If you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, aren't you tempted to send him to a situation like the Redskins, as opposed to sending him to Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers, sending him to San Francisco with Jimmy Garoppolo, sending him to the Indianapolis Colts, even though we know he's not going to an AFC team with Andrew Luck? Aren't you tempted to send Antonio Brown to a place where there isn't a great quarterback?
Hey, I am that petty, Stephen A. I would 100% try to send him somewhere where he's not going to catch any balls, where they're not going to win, where he would be totally frustrated. But, you know, I don't know if Kevin Colbert and the organization, Mr. Rooney, are going to have the opportunity to pick that, because obviously it'll be about which team is a suitor for Antonio Brown. But I would definitely, if all things the same, I feel like I can get the same amount of draft picks from whatever team, I would definitely try to send him to a place where he would be unhappy.
Is it
just because of the way that he forced himself out?
Is it possible that his histrionics, his belligerence, whatever you want to call it, may potentially cost the Steelers the ability to get a first-round pick for him?
I think it's going to be hard. I do. I think when teams look at Antonio Brown, also look at the fact that he wants guaranteed money now on the 3 years left on his contract, I believe it's going to be extremely hard to force a team into a first-round pick. And obviously that's what they're going to want. They're going to look at the Amari Cooper trade and say that we should get at least the same thing the Oakland Raiders got in return for Amari Cooper. But it's a different situation. It's a different personality. And it's a guy who's been very public with the way that he's gone about getting this trade. And I do think that teams will use that against the Steelers in the negotiation process.
So if they use it against the Steelers, and Kevin Colbert has made it very, very clear, there's not a giveaway situation. It's not some flea market sale. We're going to get equitable compensation for Antonio Brown, and because of the Amari Cooper trade to Dallas, it's presumably worth a first-round pick, rather. Is it possible that if the Steelers aren't able to garner that from an opposing team, that they make the decision to keep Antonio Brown as a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers?
You know, it's starting to feel like they can't, right? It's starting to feel like they're going to have to move him and accept a lesser trade than they're hoping for, just with Antonio being so set on leaving. The spectacle, the spectacle that he's made this already makes it hard for him to come back into that locker room and be with Ben Roethlisberger and be with Coach Mike Tomlin. And I think with those things involved, they're going to be forced to move him no matter what the options are.
One of the things that I said to you early on TV was that I think that this year, when it comes to Big Ben Roethlisberger, and you added Mike Tomlin to the mix, they've never been under more pressure than they will be this upcoming season. I want to know if you agree with that and why.
I just think that I 100% agree with you. For Ben Roethlisberger, not only is his play going to be in question, but his leadership, Stephen A. Right? This has been something that we've been focused on with him now since Antonio Brown brought it up. And I think, there were there have been pieces done on Ben's leadership for years now. Now Kevin Colbert comes out and says he's the unquestioned leader. This is the guy we're backing. So now he has to go on the field and prove it. And not only prove that, he has to conduct himself in a way that doesn't draw negative attention to the way he's leading this team. And then on the other side of that, there's Mike Tomlin, right? You lose Le'Veon Bell to free agency. You get nothing in return for him. Now Antonio Brown has forced his way out of the organization very publicly, right? This man decided to not even come to work under your tenure, under your tutelage. And so now what are you going to do with the team going forward? What type of locker room will you have? And can you produce wins, right? Not winning the AFC North is unacceptable for this team this year, and Mike Tomlin and Ben Roethlisberger will both be in question if that doesn't happen.
One of the other things that we didn't mention is Le'Veon Bell, and him tweeting about somebody with curiosity because they mentioned the Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously, there's the Indianapolis Colts out there, the Green Bay Packers out there, others. What's the best situation for Le'Veon Bell that he should be pursuing?
Well, I mean, you made the point earlier. If you could get to Philadelphia and be on that team and be coached, they're a team that has a winning pedigree and a winning coach, a good quarterback. I think that's a good spot if you can get there. I feel like Doug Peterson gets away from the run a little bit, but, you made a very interesting point. If Le'Veon Bell's there, maybe he doesn't. When I look at the Indianapolis Colts, I think that would be the best spot. I just don't know if the Indianapolis Colts make that move with Marlon Mack becoming an impact player down the stretch of the season, having a really good early game against the Houston Texans in the playoffs. So I think that place doesn't fit. So my next spot would be the Houston Texans. This is a team with a great number one wide receiver. You have a quarterback who's on his first deal, so you'll have the money to go out and make a move. And Lamar Jackson, who is your starter now, is nowhere near close to who Le'Veon Bell is, and also has 1 year left on his deal that you can get rid of. Obviously, the Texans have had some O-line problems, but I believe with the rushing attack, you add that to the play-action games, getting guys free on the outside, this is a place where Le'Veon Bell can go and change things and also help tremendously in the passing game.
What about the New York Jets?
New York Jets has seemed to be the spot. I think from a standpoint of being in a big city, being in a big market, having young, exciting players like Jamal Adams on defense, it would be an exciting place to go. I don't necessarily know if Le'Veon Bell going there immediately produces wins. And I think as much as he wants the money, and I think that's the place he will go, I know he wants to be successful on the field individually and also win. And I don't think that move right away guarantees Le'Veon Bell wins like he wants. As
it pertains to the New York Giants, I mean, we hear the name Odell Beckham Jr. We've heard the potential out there for for trades because the great Jay Glazer spoke up about it. He didn't report it as news or any stretch. He just said he had a feeling that OBJ would be traded. The Giants have now come out. They made it very clear he's not going anywhere. What do you think about what you're seeing and hearing from the New York Giants specifically as it pertains to Odell Beckham Jr.?
I think there's no way, no how, Stephen A. Odell Beckham Jr. should be in trade talks. I don't think that's a guy you give up. That type of talent belongs on your team. That type of will to win and compete belongs on your team. Odell Beckham Jr. is the one player on that team other than Saquon Barkley who shows up every time he's on the grass. And so to even be thinking about moving him, or for that to even be a conversation that the New York Giants are willing to have when you continuously roll Eli Manning out there and allow him to be your starting quarterback is absolutely ridiculous to me.
Ryan Clark right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Before I let you get on out of here, let me ask you about Colin Kaepernick. Obviously, he settled. You and I haven't had an opportunity to talk about this since it happened. He settled his grievance with the National Football League, both he and Eric Reed. My issue was very, very simple, Ryan Clark, because obviously you're not just a football, but you weren't just a football player and a champion. You were also on correct me if I'm wrong, was it the executive committee or the negotiating committee for the NFL? Committee. The executive committee for the NFL Players Association. So you know a thing or two about this stuff. Here's the deal. Colin Kaepernick reaches a settlement. Now, the Players Association, although they were involved, they were pushed in the background by Colin Kaepernick because he wanted his own individual representation. I've never understood why the NFL Players Association didn't file their own grievance on his behalf, whether he liked it or not, but that's a different story for another day. My question to you would be this. The settlement was reached. I want to know details. I want to know exactly what you capitulated to. Talk to me about that, please.
No, I absolutely do. I think, one of the things that's been hard with Colin Kaepernick ever since this started and once he was out of the league was the lack of communication, the lack of him not speaking up and kind of keeping us abreast as to what he was doing, why he was doing it, where the protest and where the work has led, and where he sits with the NFL. Because this protest wasn't started to get money. Obviously, the suit of the NFL on the collusion side was to, at least I thought, was to try to get back into the NFL. And if not, get enough money or a certain amount of money that lets you know that they felt like they were wrong, right, and that they have admitted to that. And so for me to just get a certain amount of money and for people to not know, right, for him to not say, this is why I took this certain amount of money, it was enough for me to say, okay, I'll settle the suit, and now I'm attempting to continue to play football and get back in the NFL. I would like to know what they gave him that made him say, what you have done to me in light of my protest, is now okay with me.
Well, I got to tell you something. I got a different perspective, slightly different. My attitude is this. I don't care about his money. Whatever money you got, whatever money you got. What I want to know is what he capitulated to. Are you gonna be out of the NFL forever? Are you gonna come back to the NFL? If you do come back to the NFL, are you gonna stand for the national anthem or take a knee? What exactly were the stipulations you capitulated to in order to settle this case? That's what I want to know, Ryan.
Yeah, you know what? And now that you bring up that point, that is actually a huge point. I think that's what a ton of people would like to know, and that kind of goes along with me saying whatever you settled on to make it feel like it was okay what has happened to you. And for him to settle, it makes me feel like they told him there's a possibility of him getting to play in the league. But you also know on the other side of that, there were some things he had to say that he was willing to do in order for that to be a possibility. So if Colin Kaepernick comes out and tells us, well, in order to get this settlement, I had to say that if I was back in the league, I would not kneel, I would not protest, that would be very disheartening for me.
Ryan Clark, always appreciate you, brother. Thanks a lot, man. Talk to you soon. Ryan Clark right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. We'll get back to your calls and more with everything Ryan Clark had to say in a minute. By the way, do you have frequent heartburn? Like the kind where you have antacids stashed everywhere in case it pops up? You know what I mean. You keep some of
The Stephen A. Smith Show.
Radio, ESPN News, 888-SAY-ESPN is always the number to call up. That's 888-729-3776. Let's go back to the phones. Thanks again to Ryan Clark, NFL analyst extraordinaire. Gave us a little bit of his basketball knowledge before we got back into some football. But let's get right back into it. Let's go to Ray. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Yeah, Stephen A.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man, I can happily say that the Lakers will not make the playoffs, but I think too much blame has been put on LeBron and not enough on Magic and Rob Pelinka. And I sort of want to call you to the carpet just a little bit because you read on my radar behind Mike Mayock with the lack of experience, nepotism or whatever. But I can smile the same thing happened with Rob Pelinka having no experience and only getting hired due to his relationship with Kobe
We'll
Bryant.
stop right there. First of all, Rob Pelinka was an agent negotiating with general managers in the league for years. I didn't say he was the most qualified GM in the business. Magic Johnson is the one running basketball decisions. Rob Pelinka answers to him. So he's not the decision maker in that regard. He works the phones. He talks to different teams. He tries to get things done, but ultimately it's Magic Johnson that pulls the strings. That's number one. You could sit up there and say the same about Mike Mayock, but the reality is that Mike Mayock, and I don't mean to cast any aspersions on him whatsoever. In the case of Mike Mayock, he is basically was doing what I do, what Adam Schefter and Jay Glazer and others have done in the world of football as a reporter and an insider, to go from that to being the general manager of a National Football League team with no experience whatsoever as an executive, or no role in the front office of the NFL in any capacity, to get that particular job. I got a problem with that.
Okay, I hear you, but I do feel that they haven't brought in the regular players to help LeBron.
Well, I definitely no. I agree with you there. I don't like the roster that was assembled. I don't think they went out there and got any shooters, to be quite honest with you. I think that could have gone a long way towards helping them be a bit more successful, without question. As far as I'm concerned, even if you could have gotten Kyle Korver from Cleveland instead of going to Utah, you could have got him to come to L.A. or somebody else. I think that would have been helpful as well. So I definitely don't disagree with you to that point. I look at Rob Pelinka and Magic Johnson as well because of the roster they assembled. The only reason why LeBron James is a pivotal subject is because LeBron James is the one voicing his displeasure with the parts around him. And in fact, LeBron James has had some slippage, obviously because of injury, and I don't think that could be ignored.
Okay, I hear you there. And my last point, man, the disrespect. Why can't my Blazers get any respect?
You know why? First of all, Dame time. I love Dame. I love Damian Lillard. Okay, there's no question about that. And CJ as well. I got a lot of love for the both of CJ McCollum. I got it. I get it. And their roster is really good. But we all know what's going to happen to the Blazers. They're going to go home in the second round at the latest if they're lucky. Last year, they won 49-50 games. They were a third seed in the West and got blitzed, swept by the New Orleans Pelicans. When you're coming off something like that, it's going to be hard to garner respect.
Yeah, but I can say the same about Harden. He gets there and
Tell me, where was Harden last year? What was his last game?
I mean, he made a little bit further.
No. No, little further. Look, James Harden has been in semifinal series. He's been in conference final series. As a reserve, he was in a finals. Last year, he was in the Eastern Conference Finals. You can't compare that to Portland.
Wait, he probably had just a slightly better team, but with the progress and maturation
I'm going to stop you right there. Stop right there. You don't get to argue with me no more because you're saying slightly better. Being swept in the first round or going to Game 7, 48 minutes away from a trip to the NBA Finals. You're going to say that's slightly better? I don't have time for you right now. Have a nice day. You're not being accurate. You're going to be real on this show. You're going to be real on the Stephen A. Smith Show. You're not going to call up here with that nonsense. It's not going to happen. Let's go to DJ. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
How you doing, Stephen A. Smith?
I'm good. What's up?
Great. This was reaching out to you. I'm actually the older brother of one of the players that knelt at Ole Miss over the weekend.
Okay.
And I know I was watching First Take yesterday, and I noticed that Will Kane kept asking a specific question that really wasn't answered in the best that I felt. And so I know he kept asking, like, why specifically the American flag? Mm-hmm. And I know you said that because that's the biggest stage, obviously, to bring the most attention on this topic. And so I personally felt like that was a good answer, but it wasn't the best answer because I feel like, obviously, before the Confederacy came into play, Colin Kaepernick took a knee to the flag for racial injustice issues. And if that question comes up again, why the American flag, the Confederacy flag, doesn't come into play. So my answer to that would be because we still have issues that are here in America, like concerning the American flag, not the Confederacy flag.
What are the issues that we have concerning the American flag?
Social injustice issues.
Time out. But there's various things that point to social injustice issues in the United States of America. The flag isn't the only symbolic thing that's associated with racial injustice in the United States of America. So when he asked that question is what I'm trying to say. Why the flag? He wasn't acting as if there's no social injustice, there's no racial injustice, there's no racial inequality, there's no racism, there's no bigotry, there's no any of those things. What he was asking is, why is the flag the tool being used to bring attention to that, as opposed to various other ways in which you can choose to bring attention to it? And my response was, in this day and age, in all likelihood, because of Kaepernick and the swarm that caused, it's going to garner the most attention, which is what you're after when you're protesting something.
Yes, and I think that's true, but I think more specifically, we still have to hold America accountable for these issues.
Once again, you're not touching the point. The fact of the matter is that there are a multitude of things that can be used to highlight that. The reason why the flag or issues surrounding the flag is a tool and a mechanism that would be used by most in this day and age is because it has proven to garner the most attention, which was my answer to Will Cain. So if you're going to protest something and you want attention brought to it, that would be the number one thing that you're using in this day and age, feeding off of Colin Kaepernick. How can you dispute that?
Well, not necessarily disputing it, but just was, making a small correction.
But it's not. But you're not succeeding in that regard, because you still haven't given me something that could garner more attention. And if you're protesting, you're obviously looking for the attention, which is what the players did, rightfully so, I might add, and I 1,000% stand behind them. But the point is, we understand what their objective was, and they succeeded in doing so. Do you know of something else that they could have done to point the finger towards, to highlight their issues of the injustice that was being exercised and exacted against them by the pro-Confederacy groups that was spewing hatred and giving the impression that that kind of hatred existed on their campus? Do you know of something better they could have done?
I'm not convinced that we could have found something better, because number one.
Exactly. You're making my point. That's exactly the truth. You're not so sure they could have done something better, which is why I gave the answer to Will Cain that I did.
Absolutely. Okay.
All right. Have a nice day. And tell your brother I said thank you again. Good job on his part. Chris, you're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Hey, Stephen A. Good talking to you again. Real quick on what I saw from my legs. One thing I want to point out, the previous caller, not this last one, the one before that, you mentioned that you did not like the roster that's presently constructed with the Lakers.
Right.
And I remember for the season starter, you had our Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. So
yes,
I feel like that's kind of contradicting.
I'm talking about not to me. I never liked the roster. I thought it was good enough to get to the conference finals because of LeBron James. But the reality is that when all is said and done, I've always clamored for more shooters. Magic Johnson's a witness to that. And anybody who's listened to me talk about the Lakers, I've always wanted an additional shooter or two. I definitely did ask the question as to why don't you have more shooters? But I still felt they could have made the conference finals because I wasn't high on Oklahoma City or Denver or Utah or Portland. So basically, I felt that the Lakers could get to the conference finals by default. It's not inconsistent.
Oh, right. No, you know what? You're right. You did say by default. I apologize.
Go ahead.
That's not why I called, but I just want to point that out. But a couple of things I'm seeing from my Lakers and LeBron. I think a lot of people everybody fails to point out Stephen A. His lack of effort, obviously, what we saw against Memphis, you pointed out him not going after loose balls after rebounds and all that stuff. That goes back to the conversation I had with you back when I called last week about setting the example. We've discussed that. But one thing that really sticks out to me, Stephen A., is obviously LeBron's not a great free throw shooter. We understand that, right?
Right.
But
around 68%, around 67, 68%, yeah.
It's horrible. But when I'm looking at my Twitter and I'm seeing the guy promoting a Space Jam 2 movie instead of in the gym working on his free throws. Not saying he's not, but I'm saying if this is Kobe Bryant, if you was shooting 58%, you think he'd be promoting a movie? That's just a side note. But something that your friend Champ pointed out about LeBron being traded. You remember what I asked you about LeBron and Anthony Davis straight up trade? Do you remember what you told me?
I said no way in hell.
And you said because Magic does what? LeBron what?
That's right. I don't recall, man. You know how many conversations I have? Why do y'all do that to me? If you were talking 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, would you remember every word that you say? Could y'all help me out just a little bit? Stop asking me those questions. Just state your point.
I got you. I was just saying if you were able to remember. But you mentioned, like you did your champ, that Magic would reach out to LeBron and get the okay from LeBron for trading him. So my question to you and the Magic, if that is the case, is what if LeBron doesn't owe the city of Cleveland anything? What does the city of Los Angeles owe LeBron? You don't have to give me an answer now. This is something.
No. I think they owe LeBron coming to L.A. because he made the Lakers relevant again. They should be thankful for having him. But in the end, you're a Laker. And when you wear that purple and gold, the tradition is championships. Every megastar that has ever worn a Lakers uniform outside of Elgin Baylor has delivered a championship. And the same onus is going to be placed on the shoulders of LeBron James, like it or not. And that's my ultimate point. I got to run, Chris. I appreciate the call, old man. Thank you so much. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You are listening live to Stephen A. on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. Your calls to close out the show in just a minute. By the way, if you missed the show today, go check it out on demand in the Stephen A. Smith podcast. Brought to you by Capital One. Capital One is reimagining banking, offering accounts with no fees or minimums that can be opened in 5 minutes. Capital One. Hey, what's in your wallet? Back with your calls to close out the show in a minute.
Learn what affects your credit scores and what you can do to improve them with Credit Karma. Maybe you need to dispute an error on your credit report, or you're paying too much interest. Credit Karma can help with that. Visit creditkarma.com or download the app now. That's creditkarma.com.
Need game tickets? Find your seats at Vivid Seats.